Greetings all. Welcome to this live stream titled Revolutionizing Project Management with AI. My name is Mike Boyle, and I will share with you some of my thoughts as to how best to apply AI within project management. And first, I'd like to briefly talk about some of my experience primarily with ChatGPT. The invention of ChatGPT reminded me of that moment when I first saw the internet. And with that, it was truly a godsend. I started to think of all kinds of different things that I could do with this application. And so with regards to ChatGPT, what I did was I put together a course on system thinking using AI completely. So what does that mean? I came up with the scripts for the entire course. So I asked ChatGPT, what should it actually entail? And then we drove deeper and looked at the various types of material to be found within the course. And then I used an AI avatar for the rest and put it online just to figure out how is this actually done. And of course, as it usually is the case, as soon as I did it, I realized what I should do the next time. And with that, I just kept on plugging away and realized that this is a tool that allows for all kinds of productivity gains. And that's going to be the basis of my conversation with you today. So let's get started. First, maybe just as a precursor, I should explain to you that what I'm doing, I did not try in advance. So this could be very interesting for me as well. Perhaps if I can highlight what you see on the screen. What I decided to do was put in a prompt for a course that I put together. This is an actual project that I ran a number of years ago. So perhaps if you could read the text here. I have an assignment to exchange or implement a travel management point of sale tool for a particular company. It was the company I was working for. This will occur in Austria, Germany, Switzerland, France, Netherlands, Belgium, Italy, and Denmark. Can you define a project plan and list phases, milestones, and tasks? Please advise whether you need additional information to perform this task. And I'll be doing all of this live. So let's get started. So our systems have detected unusual activity coming from your system. Oh, that's great. Let's try this one more time. And this might put my strategy to an end. Okay, so what is ChatGPT telling us? To create a comprehensive project plan for implementing a travel management point of sale system across multiple countries, including Austria, Germany, blah, blah, blah. I need to know the following: size and structure of the company, current point of sale system in use, if any, specific requirements and preferences for the new POS system, scope, full replacement or integration, customization requirements, compliance with local regulations and standards, budget constraints, of course, available human resources, technology stack, timeline, stakeholders, risk management. Now, that's quite interesting. And of course, this should not surprise us, because these are the questions that we should be posing ourselves as project managers, right? The real question is, do we even know this? And I'd like to go back to the screen and let's look at what they were sharing with us. So the project initiation, we know about that. That's where we start. So with the project kickoff, they're not really telling us anything new. The tasks: identify key stakeholders, define project objectives, planning. So basically, they're not giving us too much information that's going to help us too much apart from something very, very general. So let's go ahead and try to come up with more detailed information going through the risk management. Yes, for anybody who's practicing project management, we're familiar with these tasks. So let me try something else. Please describe the, let's change this. List the stakeholders for developing application for a supermarket. So the tool be used by the customers and should drive traffic to the market. So let's see what ChatGPT comes up with. Creating an application for the supermarket. So the project manager, product owner, development team, IT department, marketing team, customer support team. Whoops, it's going way too fast for me. Oh, we're coming up with an interesting list here. Wanted to go back up to the top, but I have to finish letting this continue. So customer support team, data analyst, legal and compliance team, finance department, store manager and staff. Yep. Okay. External stakeholders, customers, suppliers and vendors, app development contractors, third-party service providers, regulatory authorities, and influential stakeholders. This is a pretty good breakdown, actually. Board of directors, investors, industry associations. And this is something that I just kind of made up on the fly. The engagement and involvement they list. So how should we manage that relationship with the stakeholders? I didn't ask for that information. It was supplied. Survey and feedback, cross-functional teams, et cetera, et cetera. This is all very interesting information. I think it could be quite useful for those people who are not really familiar with the subject and what we're trying to take on. I don't think there was anything too earth-shattering here, but I think that it could be quite interesting if you're just looking for some sort of ideas. Who should I take into consideration? Perhaps what we can do, depending upon whether anybody has any ideas of things that we need to talk about. I'm going to go back and stay with this example. Let's go back. And please list the risks involved with such a project and put them in the form of a risk register. So let's see what ChatGPT tells us. Here's a detailed risk register. So this could be quite useful if you're trying to brainstorm. This is all obviously very generic information, but it could be quite useful if you're trying to start putting together a risk register. Let me do this. If you're interested in putting together a risk register and you're not really quite sure where you want to start, this could be quite insightful in allowing for you to get started. Very often with a lot of the tasks that I perform within ChatGPT, it's just I'm not really quite sure where to start. Doesn't necessarily mean I need to take the information that's there, but it could be quite useful. And so I thought with that, go ahead and follow that path. Let's stay with another example. Let's go back to the screen. So we have the risk register, and look, it actually put it together in the form of a table. I have the paid version, so that could be looking different depending upon whether you're using the free version or not. Yeah, you look at these points; they're quite generic, but still, it'd be a good place to start. And you can start a conversation with various stakeholders. And let's take this one step further. Within the risk register, can you describe risk mitigation and add this to the table? For those of you, just to make sure we're clear, when we talk about risk mitigation, of course, risks are the unknown events that can take place regardless, looking at specifically from the project. And we want to not be surprised in how we approach it. We want to come up with various solutions. And so we establish what's called risk mitigation. And let's see what ChatGPT actually gives us. Oh, it's pretty good. We have the actual risk description, the potential impact, so we understand that, the likelihood of it taking place, the impact if it does take place, and how we can actually deal with it. And this continues, and it lists the responsible party. So this can be a way to make your work much easier, looking at it from a project management perspective. Let's try something else. What else would we need within? Let's please give us a communication plan for this project. So let's see what ChatGPT suggests for a communication plan. It's giving it to us in the table as well. That's great. Listing the stakeholders, which would be logical. So it lists the objectives of our communication plan, meaning that we know for a fact whether it's worth our while or not, right? So we have the various stakeholders, project manager, product owner, we've already gone through this, and their role and what their communication needs are. So with that, we can take it one step further. Based on the needs, please describe the means to be deployed. So based on the needs, please describe the means of communication to be deployed. So let's see what they say. Kickoff meetings, of course, we know this. Weekly project meetings, yes, we know these as well. Bi-weekly status meetings, nothing too earth-shattering here. Integration meetings, reports and documents. And it's still thinking. And while ChatGPT is thinking, I'd like to go ahead and raise the point from Tony. Show. There we go. And now AI, whoops, went too quick. Let's try again. AI output is often too generic for prime time, e.g. formal presentations. It is more specific. It is a more specific prompt for the user that's needed. Or is AI not there yet? Yeah, thanks for that question, Tony. I think that we need to understand that AI is a tool that we use, and it's not to be a replacement for everything. It should actually expedite the way that we perform our tasks. So let me give you an example. If indeed I am looking to build something and I have an idea of how to approach it, and perhaps not necessarily always sure of what kind of input I should be putting in, I would take a piecemeal approach and put it together. The it the the value of the content is only as good as the actual prompt that you're giving. Here, right in these examples I'm giving you right now are very, very general. So I wouldn't expect too much from that. If I was coming up with something very, very specific, then it would be looking much different. Maybe if I was to dig a little bit deeper into this one example, let me go back to the example. I think this is very, very general, this information. Let me try something else. For our stakeholders, please create a power interest. Let's see what comes out here, because the system doesn't really have enough information to give a proper answer. So what they're going to do is explain basically what a power interest grid is. If I was to supply ChatGPT with a stakeholder map and would describe those particular stakeholders and you would share this insight with ChatGPT, then ChatGPT would be able to come up with proper information. But as you can see from the example that I'm showing you right now, it's still very, very general. If you're not familiar what a power interest grid is and are working with this for the first time, let me go ahead and move this here. Say, for example, if you're working with a power interest grid for the first time and you're not really quite sure how to use it, can it be like your first step? Then I think it could be quite valuable. Let's go ahead and move on to Christine. How safe is it to share the information about our projects with AI? Well, that's another question, because obviously that's going into the public domain, and there we have to be very, very careful. This is where I'm going to make a prediction that we will develop large language models for individual companies so that the data that they have will be protected. Because if you were to share this within the public domain, that can be very, very dangerous. So thank you very much for that question. Let's go through one more example. So we looked at the communication strategy. We looked at a risk register. What would be another component that we would need? When setting up the project, how can we ensure that we are getting Now, this might sound like a general question. When setting up a project, how can we ensure that we're getting valuable information from our key stakeholders? For anybody who's a practitioner of project management, we shouldn't see any surprises here. The first spot should be obviously a stakeholder analysis and mapping, in putting together the key stakeholders and understanding their needs, communication plan, engagement techniques, I think these are also very standard elements, but we should not forget that we have a case of where some people are starting this for the first time, or you might be dealing with the subject that you've never dealt with before. And that can be a godsend to at least get some sort of indicators of where you can actually start. We have another question. Let's go ahead and move on. I also wonder about the particularly if uploading or pasting in content, where does it go? Is it stored, and who owns it, and any IP? Yeah, obviously these are issues that we have to deal with here. And there are no easy solutions. The question is to what degree we can use the functionality without putting any of our material into danger. And I think there's some standard elements that we should always take into consideration, whether we're talking about AI or if we're talking about the internet in general. We should not be sharing any types of names of people. You can come up with descriptions. You can suppress the names. With regards to any type of company internal information, I would be very suspicious, but I would be suspicious regardless of whether I'm talking about AI or if I'm talking about putting something into the internet. I know of cases of companies that I worked for where they were not so careful about the information that they were sharing. And in fact, all kinds of internal information ended up showing up in the internet. And it's just because people were not very considerate of what they were doing. Good. I think with that, I will leave the subject. In these examples, what would be the takeaway for me from performing this action? As I mentioned, I did not do this in advance. I thought it would be good to share this with you directly and get an impression of what kind of responses I would get. My take is that I was asking very generic questions, so I was getting generic answers. If I was giving more specific questions, and specific questions don't necessarily mean that I'm giving away personal information or company information. I could be still asking about certain case, what possibilities we have, what solutions can be at our disposal. That would be number one. My experience with ChatGPT is that you have to break things down into areas that the system can work with. That means that the more general the question is, the more general the answer is going to be. And very possibly, and most probably, ChatGPT is not able to break those components down. So what you should do before you get started is take the various components and build on top of each other. So you can pose a question, receive the response, and then pose another question based upon the first one to develop levels of abstraction. And for me, that's been quite useful in various activities I've performed. And I personally believe that for me personally, it's been a huge productivity gain in using the tool. Perhaps not necessarily apparent in that of what I showed today, but I think the idea would be to get your hands dirty and try things out. And with that, I think that you will be able to measure your own success moving forward. So with that, I'd like to move on and talk about the next, let's try this again. The next live stream that we'll be running, and this will be a little bit different because one, it will not be me standing in the middle, but rather we will have a couple of guests that will join us and talk about their transformation from their previous tasks, whatever they were doing within their career, and how they moved on to project management. And in fact, we would still have one slot open if anybody's interested to join the Project Management Spotlight taking place on the 14th of August. Please feel free to reach out to me. And I will see if I can include you in that live stream on the 14th, starting at 1400, which would be, well, you can see the times below. And with that, I say thank you very much for your time and look forward to joining you in our next live stream. Take care.